Cool. So this is the NWC Show, episode 67, and if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I am the granite bruiser Rayhne.
So where did you come up with the name? We'll just go straight into it first. First of all, where did you come up with that name?
Mine's just like do you know what, like, see, for every fan that chants Purple Rain, right, the sad thing is they're not wrong, right? So when I started training, when we were told to think about character, that was kind of like the name that automatically came to my head. And the same with my mum. She was like, because my dad had passed away, and like with the connection with Prince, she was like, and I always had purple hair and stuff like that. But I was like, my name's spelt differently to the usual spelling of the name. So I was like, I don't want to have it the same way. And then I liked Madison Rayhne as well, but I was like, that's still a bit normal. So I originally had it Rayhne, and my mom was like, no, I hate that. That's ugly. And I was like, okay, I'll just switch it round. She still doesn't like it, but that's basically how it came to be. Just the colour purple and Prince and having a difficult name to spell myself. Just be different.
That was easier than mine. Mine was when I first started. I like Scotland, and Sting's my favourite wrestler. So the guy was just like, Scottish Stinger, right, on you go. And I was like, well, that's such a fucking shit name. And I had to be like
that's
this.
A shite, mate. Cheers.
Had to be this pure nice, like, person that took pictures with kids and stuff. So you know what the job or position's like. You're always just the person that's pure whapped out there to get pictures with anybody who comes.
That's what I feel like. A lot of people put themselves in the position when they're creating a character. Like, you have to be heel or you have to be face. That's not the reality of wrestling. Like, see, being a heel, I think I've hit less moves being a heel, but it's like it's not my job to be cool and amazing. It's my job to be the bad guy. And then being the bad guy, and then afterwards they're like, can I get a picture with you? And you're like, yeah, sure. But it's like I feel so uncomfortable because it's like almost like if I'm a bad guy, I'm playing a character, I'm not being myself. But it's so easy to pretend to be a bad guy that when they're nice to you afterwards, you're like, why you be nice to me? I just screamed at you for 10 minutes and called you fat, like, and now you want my picture. I don't get it.
I'm so easy to hate as well. Like, I just had that face that people back when I was younger was like, this guy's just such a cunt, and I was like, can I be a bad guy? And it was like, no, you need to be a good guy. But it made me learn how to be like, how to work both sides of the crowd, which is cool. And I ended up being a tweener for like kind of done some good stuff, some bad stuff, which is always the best one because you get both sides of the crowds like, yeah. But so what got you into wrestling? What was that moment you were like, these people in tights is the thing that I like to watch or do?
Basically, I always sort of had wrestling there. Like, we had like VHS tapes of like WrestleMania 1 and 2. But I couldn't tell you about watching them because I don't have that memory. The first memory I have before watching WWE was probably going down to Butlins and having the big Scotland versus England match and like Skegness, and it was like, I'm 9 years old and I'm like, why is everybody booing the Scottish guy? And it's like, you're in England. Oh, okay. But then, like, when my big brother moved in with us, he obviously was a big WWE fan. He stayed up for like the pay-per-views. I had no idea about it. And then for a way to bond with him, I think I always forget what it is as much as I tell the story. The first pay-per-view, I think it was Night of Champions, roughly like 2008 or something. It was like CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy. I believe that whole sober storyline and all that kind of stuff. And I think I fell asleep at the Triple H match because I just couldn't be bothered. But after that, I started to watch like the weekly like highlights of Raw and Sky Sports, and then you could see TNA was on TV, and then you had British Boot Camp, and it kind of just evolved from there, really.
I see. I'm 30, so I got into it like in the
Way
90s.
before.
So like
Yeah.
that massive period when wrestling was like over as hell, when had Rock, Austin, all the good stuff. I got into that, and then you got Ruthless Aggression. So I got the good period in wrestling. But
I got the right. This is okay. We still have Batista. We still have Undertaker. We still have everyone. And here's the really shite period where there's nobody, and it was like, okay. Great.
You got like, you were like, oh, I've still got these cool guys, and then like people like The Miz was a champion, and you're like,
yeah.
oh, what's this? What the before that was even before women's wrestling was good. It was just like
it was still like
that.
with that, yeah. But that's
that
when
horrible
do you
period.
know how the many people, right, I understand, obviously, given the situation of it, it was crap. But I still loved it. Like, how many times I watched like Beth Phoenix versus Trish or something, and it's like a 5 minute match, but I'm like, this is more interesting than half. They should have been given longer, but it's like, it doesn't mean it was all bad. You know what I mean? Like, watching Beth Phoenix, still, her and Natalia at the time were like my biggest things. But then you could go over to TNA and obviously watch the better stuff. And
I think the women's wrestling, there was some stuff there that they were trying, but like when I got into wrestling, women's wrestling was just like, I don't even think it was on TV. Like, for so long, it was like, where is anything? But at least it's better now. Back then, it was different. But then you could argue the characters were better back then. So
yeah, do you know what? That's my thing now. It's like, not that I'm trying to have a controversial opinion in any means, because I know I'm not a superstar by any means either. But like back then, it was traditionally like, you know, you're being a character, like Lay Cool and all that kind of stuff. Like that was just brilliant. Whereas now it's like, okay, everyone's got their own sort of cat, but it's just about being good now. Almost like you have to have a wrestling match. There's no different sort of variety in it, especially in WWE terms. Like, and it's just kind of like, no, because you're building, like, if you build Charlotte Flair up and then Becky or Sasha takes her, and then that's it, and it's just like, but now you're ruining like everybody below, and no, I don't like it.
I think I agree with you. I think it's totally confusing now the way they do it. Like, it's just like they've got their main guys. Same in the men's side, they've got just their main guys, and they just keep them there. And then everybody below that is just like somebody like Carmella's never going to be as good as like a Charlotte Flair who's naturally born to be a wrestler. But we can still put her over. Like, but then they just don't do it. It's like, no, you go out, have this terrible 3-minute match, and hopefully somebody will buy your t-shirt. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're just shooting her in the foot before she's even got out there, which is.
It's even for how much, right, I know this will get a lot of hate by people, right, but even for how much hate Lana got, right, I didn't understand that, because like, even like before it was good for women, like WWE hired models to be wrestlers. In all reality, like there was some, Michelle McCool could wrestle, right, but there was people out there that had no experience. They were cheerleaders and they were coming in and becoming wrestlers. But it's just like, fair enough, she had the husband, but she worked. I'm not saying, again, she's not the greatest wrestler of all time, but she trained, she worked for it, she tried hard, and she got the opportunity. And people will shit on that, and it's like, but that's exactly how you would say to somebody that was training like down in like bloody England or something. And it's like, it's where, fair enough, she's starting for a major company, but it's where everybody has to start at the end of the day. Like,
I think it's just with stuff like Lana and things like that, it's just because WWE's like, well, it is wrestling as much as everybody can hate on the company. They are wrestling. AEW, whatever you want to say, WWE owns the majority of the market. And Lana's starting up there and getting paid hundreds of thousands a year, and being, she wasn't terrible, but being so bad compared to the other standards. You're like, how are you getting like 400 grand a year for this? And I would do the same. Like, if I couldn't know how to wrestle and somebody wanted to give me 400 grand to go throw myself in a ring, I'd be like, aye, whatever you want me to do.
See if they ever need jobbers. Like, I wouldn't even last 2 minutes. Like, I'll happily like just come in, super kick me, and I'll take the pin. Like, for £100, let me do it.
A tenner and a dinner, and I'll be all right. Just send me out to that ring. But I think the day as well, it's just everybody expects every wrestler to have 5-star matches, which never happens, because it's never happened. If you go back to if you go to a normal independent show, there's that
5-star many. There's not 5-star matches. That's how I see it. And like, fair enough, the guys that can, and I'm saying guys because it is mainly the guys that do it, right? That's not I'm not hating on it, but the ones that are producing like the gymnastics and the spots after spots after spots, like, yeah, that's cool. But then like a sort of like a big show versus like Rey Mysterio match could happen, and like that's all anybody would talk about, because they're like, oh my god, the big guy and the wee guy, but the wee guy won. And it's like, that's how simple it needs to be at the end of the day. But people just, it's cool, you can do cool stuff, but I find, especially my recent experiences, some people are like, no, we have to do more. And then like, for example, every time I wrestled Angel Hayes, like, it was fantastic. We would have matches that had nothing in it, but like I knew her moveset well enough that I was comfortable. But then I think like we went up to Caithness and like everybody adored her because she was like the only girl up there. She had like fans that had signs, and I just grabbed the sign off of somebody, and one of the fans actually grabbed me because I grabbed this sign. Like we'd planned this as a spot, but they were like, no, give me the sign back. You're being a horrible person. I'm like, I'm actually gonna get attacked here by like this guy because of taking a sign. Like
If it gets you
yeah.
gets you heat, you need to go with it. But when I was younger, like you just said about moments, when I was getting into wrestling, it was all about the moments, like how you create a moment. It wasn't about, and also it was a move has to mean something. No matter, even if it's just a punch or into the corner, into the ropes, whatever, you have to make it matter. Like why are you putting them in the corner? What coming next?
Yeah.
Why have you threw them there? Now it's just like, I've seen matches on independent stuff and guys in the corner, and then he's like 4 flips, a handstand, and I'm like, what are you doing? This makes no sense. Imagine in a street fight, city centre.
Yeah, that's how it, like.
But
you can't say that because then people are like, you're just jealous, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, if I could do backflips and shit, of course I would do it. But it's at the same time, it's like, you can't tell. Like I get told to like not do a specific move because it's a finisher or something, but then somebody can roll out a flip from the top rope, and it's like that's a falsie, and it's like, what? Like, no, like, no, that doesn't make sense.
I always try and, when I was doing it, I was told to try and make it look realistic, but also like a show. So something that believably would look like it would hurt somebody, but then it's got meaning behind it. I can't do a handstand. And when you see people do like backflips, handstands and stuff, you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing that for? Like, imagine just in the tune, you're out, and this guy starts to fight with you and just whips out a handstand. You're like, well, you probably would be like, I'm not going to fight with that guy. He's just done a fucking handstand. But
you're just like, he's a
wouldn't it make any? That guy's clearly
it's like the guys that like Naruto run down the street. You're like, stay away from that weird. I don't want to get involved with him.
I just think it's a weird time in wrestling because it's getting more popular, but it doesn't seem to be getting more popular with just average people. Now, like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was watching wrestling, and then that trickled into like 2008, 9, 10-ish, and then that 10, 11 period when people just were like, I can't watch this shit anymore. And even though people say AEW is bringing more fans in, I get hate for this. When you whip out a random Japanese wrestler, nobody knows who this is. Like my girlfriend, she's fiance, whatever, she'll moan if I say girlfriend, so fiance, and we're watching AEW and she's like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Yeah. And then like Twitter's like, oh my god, this guy's came, and it's like, nobody knows who this guy is. Nobody watches Japanese wrestling at this side of the world if they're a casual fan. Stop making out I'm going and sitting watching like an Omega Classic match from nobody does it. I'll probably do it because I like wrestling and stuff like that. But that's me. I'm a geek for wrestling. I'm not going to go and sit and watch like. Actually, my fiance's into Drag Race. She loves drag queens, and she's watched it since like she used to like stream it in like 2010 or whatever it was. And like, I'm not going to, as a casual person who's walked by the TV when it was on, that could be like, oh, that's a Drag Race thing. Yeah. I'm not going to go sit and watch like a random French show about it or something. You know what I mean? Like, makes no sense, and people get so uptight about it. And it's like, stop being so weird. It's fine. Nobody's watching Japanese wrestling as a casual fan, and stop thinking everybody knows who these people are, because they really don't. Like, but I get so much hate for that. Everybody calls me names and stuff.
No, I totally get that in that way, because it is like, it's not even saying it's bad, because it's not bad. It's a different brand. It's a different deal. Same with British wrestling. Same with American wrestling. But it's like I've always said, and people always just, fair enough, like I've got way more medical issues now that it would never happen regardless. But people always called me lazy because I'd be like, WWE's not the goal, and it's like, oh, why? You just don't want to train in that. And it's like, no, it's just like they're on the road all the time, and half it, like you've seen it, like they can't be who they want to be, they can't wrestle how they wrestle. It's like a brand, whereas you go to a family show, you've got like one like proper striking match, you've got like a comedy match where you've got the Grados and all that, and then you've got like tag team matches and it's like, see, as long as you know what you're doing, it's all great, and it's the price of like what, £10 a ticket. Whereas you go to WWE, and if it's not a Raw or SmackDown taping, you're left with all the pure shiters. Like, here's all the women in a 6-woman tag match that lasts 6 minutes, and then we're going to have the Shield with Kurt Angle or Triple H in it, and then it's like when they go to dive over the ropes, Triple H can't do that, so he walks through the ropes, and it was just like, I paid 30 quid to see this, and I'm way up the back as well, and I've just watched him walk through the ropes because he can't dive anymore. Like,
still cheer. Look, I still cheer when they do it. Like, say, like when it's like some terrible move an old guy does, and you're like,
yeah,
I'm still going to cheer. I don't care. At least I get to see him. Like, I went to the one in the Hydro, one of the lives that WWE done, and Ric Flair came out, and then the referee who looks like Ric Flair, which I always forget his name, he was there as well, and I was pure cheering. I was like, this is cool as hell. Like, I get to see these people doing nothing, literally just walking to the ring, and I'm like, pure fanboying. And then, but I get what you mean. Like, for me, the one thing that always bugs me is like when people that are on the British wrestling scene, we all know the shows aren't big. They're totsy. They've got like a couple of hundred people at them, and then they make it like they're selling out arenas, and I'm like, just can't do it. Like, I've had people in the try to get people in the podcast, and they're like, oh, I wrestled for this company, and it's like, you need to pay me like £200-300. I'm like,
yeah, no, I hate that.
Can't do it, man.
On top of that, right, my biggest hate, and like, this is an experience with a specific person, but it's not a hate to that specific person before they try it, is when they will pay like £50-60 for like a male trainee that's not like graduated from their, like, graduated, like, we never really do, in all honesty, but somebody that's still actively learning and still actively making mistakes in matches, right? But it's a guy, he can get put in like a tag team match or whatever, but you'll say £50 for an experienced female is too much, and it's like, nah, just tell me you don't want girls on your shows then. Like, that's all you need to say. That's like, from the shite you've put on your shows, it's not the fact that the women are too much, it's the fact you just don't want to pay a woman. Like, if you don't see them worth that, fair enough, that's your opinion. You might be wrong, you might be right, but it's just, at the end of the day, like, you just have to be honest about that. Like, and that's how, like, if you're going to be a cunt, be a cunt. That's all.
I totally agree with you. If like, so some shows, you know, in Scotland especially, they put them on, and you're like, this is a bit rough. Like, you shouldn't be. Why is this guy in the ring? Like, there was a show near me. The guy wasn't trained correctly, so he kind of sounds quite similar. He wasn't finished his training. Like, I worked my ass off to, like, every day to get into shape, and I was really young when I first started wrestling. Like, I was like 14-ish, 13-ish when I got my first match. So I was like mega young. Like, I looked like a baby walking out there, and I had hair, so that was weird. But like, this guy, he's just terrible, and he ended up hurting somebody. And it was a guy that was getting back into wrestling from when I was younger. He ended up dislocating his knee, and another guy ended up hurting his neck. I think it maybe broke it. I've not spoke to him, but I was like, fuck, this show's just terrible. And it's like, there's so many like shows that are just like, no, because there's so many wrestling shows in the UK at the minute, they're trying to get just, oh, you've trained like 2 shows, like, come and work for us. Like, why are you like hiring people that have like went to 2 classes? Like, that's like turning up to a gym and doing like 10 burpees. And
it's even at that though, like, in my own experience, like, but I was over a year, and I remember, so like at PBW we had to do like a training match to show you were ready for your match, and before I got my like training match for it, we were doing like, we were just doing a run of shines or something, and I hit a spine buster, and the person ended up tucking their chin and about there in my head, so I've still got the split because they never stitched it, so I've just got the cut there forever, and I'm pure bleeding from my head. And then obviously the coach comes in and he's like, right, you ready to do these matches? And I'm like bleeding out my head, like, yeah, I'll do my match now. And honestly, like, it's harder as well because we weren't training in a ring, so like, it's only recently I've actually had ring experience, so it kind of messed up. I was in the debut match with people that were like really good, but looking back on it, it's like, I was not ready for that. Like, as much as you want to be, and you know, you're excited and you want to get out there. And then obviously I moved on to other companies, but like, they were putting me in with people that weren't trained. So it was like, this is a shit show. Like, this is an embarrassment. And you might be fine to put this under your banner and that, but I'm not. Like, I want to learn and I want to improve. And obviously, like, bad matches are bad matches. You just need to learn. But it's just like, no, they're spending like £50 a month to learn from you, and they've learned nothing. Like, no.
It's honestly, so my first match was again. It was like a pre-show for a show. Like it's a small show anyway. There's no need for a pre-show. There was one person in the crowd, and it was like a wee granny just sitting eating, and it was me having this match, and the guy was really good, but it was I thought it was a fun match. This woman was clapping and stuff, so we were doing it, but it was like one person, so you can hear it just like clapping, and she's like rustling through her sweeties and shit like that, and you're like trying to sell these moves, and you're like, fuck, this is so embarrassing. But I had a couple of battle royales and tags, and then I met one of my best friends who was like 7 feet, like legit 7 feet, and it was his mum and dad were from Africa, but he was born in Russia, so he had this weird Russian accent, and obviously he was huge, and so we used. I'm not that tall, but we used to have these matches and just put on like, just because he would be able to throw me up, and then I would try and pick him up as well, and it wouldn't work, and it would literally be like Rey Mysterio versus a Big Show. Without me doing any of the fun like flips.
The cool stuff.
Take the cool stuff out and have to run around the ring. That's when I started using chairs and stuff more, because it makes it more better than me just running around trying to like kid on. I know what I'm doing, but it was fun and stuff like that. And then you just get people, like you're saying, some people are paying like, that would be higher up the card. Me and him are putting opening show, putting on a fantastic match. People were cheering and everything. And then like the show after it's like a guy who's been like 2 classes, and they're going out, and then you go back, they come back and they critique you, and you're like, what are you talking about? I've literally just like busted my arse out there, and I've put on a good match, and you're coming back fucking.
They're two of my biggest hates. Like people that like. I'll get feedback from everyone, right? See the people that like will go, I can't get feedback from a trainee. It's like I have more of the mind than I do the body, right? In all honesty, like I have knees of a 70-year-old and my hip clicks out and stuff like that. Like I know realistically I'm not going to be the best wrestler. I do have like the mind for psychology and stuff like that. Whether it happens or not in the match is different, because physically between mentally, but like I'll take it from everyone, and it's like, even if it's bad, so when it comes to either like newer people saying anything, a lot of people take hate from it, but then also like if you say anything negative, people like are actually so angry about it. And it's like, I'm not saying it's a bad match, but like the recent match I had at Catch, right, I will say that was a bad match, right? It was entertaining wise, but wrestling wise, it was bad. There was mistakes made, and all I can do is learn from it. But like when I got that feedback of like, you need to change this, you need to do this, you need to do this, I wasn't sulking about it. It was like, no, you're right. Like, and I appreciate. I'm not going to argue. Oh, but I thought about doing this and then I didn't. And it's like, no, you just take the feedback and you either learn it or you don't. Like, that's all you need to do.
We used to always have like there was a group of us, and we would critique try and always focus on like the negative side so we can make stuff better. And then we'd be like, here's the positive parts from the match. Like, so if you won this move was a wee bit no tight enough, or this looked a wee bit sloppy and stuff like that. But it's like, see when you get people that are like maybe like one training class in, you're at training, you're doing that move, and they're like, you should do it like this, and you're
mate, you can't even like backwards roll yet. Like,
why are you doing? Like, why are you saying this? And then like they get hired and they're like getting paid more than you as well. And I've been fucking stoating around here for about 2 years, trying to get what he's getting paid, and he's just stoating in. I used to do my tits in, but I'm always somebody who critiques everything I do, even to this day, because I like to hold myself accountable, and I'll take that for wrestling training, which is one thing like as a positive. But we all know those people that are stoating around in wrestling gyms that are just like, you get them
Billy Big Boss that will only do anything for themselves, but they'll judge everybody else. Like,
and they've never had a match, but they always go to wrestling training. You're like, wait, well, literally, it's not real. You can go work. You'll be safe. And then they're like, I'm a shooter so the day.
Yeah.
Fuck off. We're fucking doing my tits in. But so. We're nearly half an hour into this, and we're pretty much buried every fucking wrestling promotion. So it's got to be fun. See how many people hate us.
Do you know what? I don't bury most of them. It's only, do you know what? See, these days, I feel like in 2021, right? There's absolutely no excuse, and this is burying a few of them because a few of them don't bother their arse. See, if you're literally, whether you're starting a promotion or you're continuing a promotion, whatever, right? Obviously, a lot of them aren't big time here, right? But for example, Catch, like they've put the effort in with the quality. So like it's a small venue, but it feels like the production of like ICW or something, right? They're putting that effort in, and then you've got companies that like do their posters on MS Paint, and no, that is my one pet hate. Like, I don't care if that's me getting heat when it's like, if you want to have a show, pay someone. Like, there's people out there that will do it for £20. Like, you don't even need to go to the people that do it for £100. Get someone good to do your poster. Like, you need to spend money to make the good show, and then if you're not even willing to buy a poster to get done, like, I have absolutely no faith in your ability to do a wrestling show. It's not a quick way to make money by any means. It's something you have to be committed to, and that just shows me you don't want to be committed at all.
Like Fiverr exists, Jimmy. You can go
Exactly.
literally. It's not even like £7. They'll make you like 8 different copies for it. It's not like it's not a hard place to go. But I know what
Whereas
you mean.
you've got the pure hard white border because they don't know how to take away the background, and it's just like no.
Canva's free. Nobody's had the
Exactly.
Canva go in that. You literally, it's easy. You can. I know what you mean. Like when you see it, especially because you don't really need to print posters anymore. Because
Yeah, it's all, like all digital. Yeah.
It's on like Facebook and stuff, and it's like, where did you make this? What the fuck? Like, what the hell is this? This is pretty bad. But like when you see the one that they've not bought the thing and it's just got the watermark on it. And
yeah.
I'm not giving you money. I've just fucking stole that off somebody, and it like they blatantly do it, and you're like, that's kind of cheating,
I'm not stupid,
isn't
it? Yeah.
Aye, it's fun. And I think as well, see in America, you've got like huge companies, like even in Japan and stuff like companies that are huge, like WWE, AEW, New Japan Wrestling. And then like the middle tier, you've got like Impact, ROH, or whatever's happening with them, the new. But they're still big companies that are selling, that have got graphics departments and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in the UK, like the biggest company isn't even that big compared to American standards. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what? I'm fucking ICW is probably one of it's biggest in Scotland, and they're not even anywhere near like a ROH or an Impact or something like that, which is even like quality and production wise and stuff. It's like such a smaller.
Yeah.
Like, this is me burying myself with ICW now, but
that's alright. I'm already hating it. There's a lot of things, especially if we were going on the graphic side. There's things we could say about previous graphic designers, but I'm not going to go there.
No, but I think it's one of the things that they just need to like you say, put some money in it. It's not where you make quick, but like any business, you're not going to make fast money. You need to play it for the long game.
See, unless you're in the drugs game and then bring that money into wrestling, you're not going to be like other ones here. Like, it is like, I was looking myself only for the fact where I am, it's rural, and like we had a couple shows in the area with the school I was with, but now obviously I'm not with them anymore. But like we used to get like, there was like early 2000s, we had like the Japanese wrestlers down at the leisure centre. They've had nothing since, and I'm like, it's a big school area, like it's not going to make money sort of thing. But it was just like, see, by like I'm investing my own money in this, and then obviously falling out with so many people, and I'm like, it's my own personal like feelings and stuff, but it's like, do I then want to pay you my own money for you to then like maybe not show up or maybe not do something, or like for whatever reason? It's just like, it's such a difficult place to start. And you know, like I have people around me that I could do it, but a lot of people will be like, they're just trainees though, and it's like, well, he's been training for like 7 years and he's actually really good. Also, what time does he stop being a trainee? Like, does he need to get onto ICW, and then that means he's no longer a trainee? Like, you know, people, especially with like NXT UK coming in when it did, and like everybody leaving, I think the gap left was too late. If they'd filled it sooner, obviously now people are getting opportunities, which is great, even if I don't support the companies and stuff. But people are getting those opportunities. But if you even look on the latest like Fear and Loathing stuff, people are like, boring, this is a yawn, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, what do you want them to do? Like, you know, they don't have fucking Drew McIntyre anymore, or Drew Galloway. Like, they need to fill the spot. Fair enough, like, if the opportunities came in like 2017, 2018, when the gap was there, you might be more invested, but it's just like, we need to start building them some way. But I do get it, because you've went from 2015 having like Mick Foley and all that kind of stuff at Fear and Loathing to now, like, to me anyway, it's like, this is the guy I train with every Sunday. He's on the same sort of pay-per-view. So it's like, I understand it from both sides, but it's just like, if you don't support, you don't get stars, you don't get the next big name if you don't support it.
When I was coming into it, I was like, so 2002, 3-ish when I first started training, and there was only the SWA and a few, like one or two others, but SWA was the biggest one in Scotland. So you want to go wrestle with, and it was like they would only hire certain people, and you had to be friends with certain people, and the people you had to be pals with were always a wee bit weird and stuff. So I my first match was actually done abroad. Like, I wasn't here, I had to go somewhere else and wrestle, which was cool. And then being able to go do that with my friends and stuff, going on holiday and doing a few matches and make money, which was fun. But it was like new. My biggest hate with ICW is everybody built it up to be this amazing company. There's a lot of problems in the company, and also the wrestling. Some of it isn't the best. I've had a few guys with ICW on my podcast, and it's the ones that I normally like, but some of it isn't the best, and some of the people make it like they're trying to book like a WWE show, like like WWE literally shafted you. They came in and they went, "Oh look, we'll give you these guys. Then here's NXT UK. We're going to take all your talent. Just fuck you. You want to come on the network?"
It's not even just that. Like, the staff they lost from that, like music producers and stuff that like were like quality content, and then it was like, oh, you can't use that anymore because it's network. And even before, right, and this, I'm not trying to get myself hate, right, but from personal experience of other shows, right, the sort of top tier ICW wrestlers would go to other places, and you're paying like what, upwards of like £100, right, for one of those guys, and then they were like, I don't want to bump. And it's like, I like, fair enough, injuries and whatever, but it's just kind of like, to me, it's like, and again, totally different generation. Like, they're good at wrestling. I'm still shite, right? I'll never deny that. I can't, right? But in that way, it's like, you've just been paid like 100, 150, £200, but then you're going to say you don't want to take a move in the match. Like, you might still have a quality match, but it's kind of like that way of like, if anyone below that said that, you'd kick the shit out of them. But then because it's you, and it's like, but what, like, that isn't the way where you could have got 4 guys from training, paid them £20 each, and they could have had like the most fantastic match ever. And it's just like, but
see, the other thing that you're saying there, you're saying like £20, 150 for like some top guys and stuff like that. People forget, like, it's no great money on the independent scene. Like, as much as when these people get released, they'll be able to make money wherever they go. They're not getting paid a lot of fucking money, because these companies aren't making a lot of money, because ICW has big shows, 3,000, that's a huge show for them, like 2,000, 3,000 people that turn up. I still don't make a ton of cash, especially if after you pay the venue, you pay like security and all that.
Even the fact that like the owner doesn't own it, so like it's a different company as well. Like, it's not even just them anymore, it's a whole different company. And
people forget, like, it's like these people, like, when people get released, like, I've worked on independence, you're not getting paid, you're not paying your mortgage or anything. I think you're struggling until you get to like, you're working maybe WWE somewhere, or you're doing like undercards somewhere, or in Japan, whatever. You might start getting paid a wee bit better.
Yeah.
But you're no making, like, if you're wrestling for like, I don't know, ICW and a few guys in London or England, you're no making like money you're going to be paying rent and shit on. You're eating cat food and shit.
That's what I always appreciated, like, seeing SWA. I used to always work Grado's merch, and like, regardless of what you got paid for that show, because I don't know, and I'm not going to discuss that anyway if I did, but he would always come away with like £200, £300 in merch. Like, I remember one time as well, it was like literally had his merch, and then I had like 7 other people's, so I had like coffees and like Kenny Williams and all that other stuff. Like, they had a couple things go, but then I'd always be right up the top because it's just Grado hat, Grado picture for him to sign because he'll come out. And it's like, that's where I then learned, because when I went up to SWE, right, as much as I was not great, there was no females. So when they had their big show, it was the Big Rumble, and it was a bad experience because I'd just been broken up with as well, and my ex worked for the company. So we broke up with me, and then 2 weeks later, I had to see him at that show. And then not only did I have a match, they then told me after the match, you're going in the Rumble, but you're also going to be Final Four. And I was like, I've never been in a Rumble. What do I do? It was great because I got I took a choke slam and I was like, I can't jump. And I'm like fucking 5 feet in the air taking this. And I'm like, I'm going to die. I don't want to ever give this move to somebody because it's horrible. But I came away with like £150 in merch because there was no females, and then there was not much else in offer. So it was like, oh, here's a glittery t-shirt, or here's like a nice 8x8, and like now I've got hats, and a lot of people don't have hats, and they're like, I'm grabbing this. And it's just like, and people will ask you like, oh, you're a trainee, why do you have merch? And it's like, because see, even if I'm shite, at the end of the day, it's that little girl in the crowd's looking up to me going, I want to be her, or I like her. And it's just like, it's something for them. Fair enough. It's how you make the money. Like in wrestling, if you're doing a 16-hour shift of making the ring, you know, you miss work. Like half the time you have to take days off work, and then you're getting up at like 8 o'clock to go get the ring, go travel somewhere else, build the ring, do the whole show, take down the ring, put the ring back, and then you're home at like 2 o'clock in the morning, but you don't get paid for it. It's just what you do. So it's like, if I then, oh, I've got a show next week I can take merch to, at least that makes up for me then missing work because I'm trying to help out in other areas. So
I always just say it's for paying the bills. It's wrestling's a business. You have to do everything. I used to start around and sell like t-shirts that were just like blank t-shirts, and be like, this was like a t-shirt that I wore when I came out to the ring, and like it's only like £2. I've only paid like 50 pence for them and stuff like that. I was like 14. I mean, I'm a person that does that all the time. I still do to this day, that hustler mentality. Like, oh, you seen this? I had that one the other day. I take it. But it's wrestling. We're all pretty much just weird carnival people that got into this weird world.
We're just we are the alternative depression side of high school, but it's still high school on the way of like the cliques and the attitudes and everything. But we're not the popular group. We're the mentally unstable group that thought, you know what, we're gonna hurt ourselves for a living. That's what we're gonna do. It's
like weird theatre kids, isn't it? Like, but like worse, because like if you're in the ring, you need to cut yourself, and it's like, why are you cutting yourself? It's part of the show. I need to do it. You know what I mean? At the end of the night, you're getting like £75, and it's like, this wasn't worth it, but it was fun. It was good. But
you're saying that I get, you know, like I only take like £20 at most, right? But I would do a death match for that amount, just for the pure fact I want to do a death match. Like, I wouldn't care.
Like, I've never said this before, and I try and not talk about my wrestling stuff that I've done, just because I've not done it for ages, because I broke my neck. Everybody knows the story. I was on the side of the ring. I fell off the ring, literally fell like that, landed on my head, broke my neck. There was nobody there. It was before the show started. I was just being a
it wasn't even worth it. Nobody even got to see it.
I couldn't sell it, nothing. I was just, and then I was like, oh, it's just sore. And then I was just being a manager that night. And then it was like 8 weeks or something later, I went to the doctors when I came home, because I was in Holland. And I came here, and then I went to the Royal in Glasgow, and they were like, mate, you've broke your neck. How? Right, sure, came here like a long time ago. And I was like, I thought it was really sore, and then it started like swelling, and it was red. And the guy's like, you took painkillers and that? And I don't really take them. And he's pure, it's wrong with you, man. Like, you need to. But I done a death match one time as well, and it was with the guy who's called Hugo, one of my best friends, and I went through glass, and there was like tacks and everything, and I think we got like £100 each or something, which was terrible. And I was like 17, and it was in this company in Germany, I think it was. Germany or Austria, one of the places, and it was fun. It was so fun. Like, it was just fun, because it was like the size difference between me and him. It just makes it even more fun, because I got the win. So it was, people were in the crowd, well, like, how does this wee guy win? And
how the fuck did he do that?
But it was fun. The next day was you're like washing yourself and it's like glass coming
Yeah.
out you, and you're like, what the
Oh,
fuck's an
yeah,
attack?
that all like see pulling tax out myself. I couldn't do that, but it's like talking about it, you're like, oh no, but see when you're in the adrenaline of that moment, you're like, fuck it, hit me with a light tube on the head. I don't care if it cracks my skull, like just do it.
See, that's one of my favourite things they like, because they just break, like
I
they're so easy to break. It's like how do these like last in buildings for so long? Like you
Yeah.
hold them the wrong way, like, what the fuck?
That's what I've got one in the so I've got to wait for the council to fix my kitchen at the moment, but I've got one but basically like water was going through it, but I'm like, see, as soon as they take that bulb out, I'm keeping that. Because anytime in wrestling, if that comes up, I'm taking that light tube with me and using it. Like I don't need to pay for it. I've got one there on standby just in case.
I've got my own props. Just pay me. I'll come. I've got this light
Exactly.
tube. Can you just? But it was a very fun match, and it was we used to do like those weird kind of matches, and there was a table match one time that then the bit of the table didn't go right, and a wee splinter thing came and it went right through like towards my back, and it was like this big. So it was like when I pulled it out, and I was like, it's like I've been stabbed. I might need to go to the hospital, but I never went. And you know what it's like, and you hurt yourself when you're wrestling. I mean, like
just go to McDonald's and make it all better. It's fine.
I still have the same attitude the other day when I was out at the pub and I was walking home and it was icy, so I slipped because it was like 11 o'clock at night in Scotland. It's like -2. It's pitch black. So I slipped and dislocated my pinky, which is an old wrestling injury. It always dislocates when I'm doing like I wash the dishes and it like falls out and I'm like, what the? And I just put it back in, and then I was just talking about it and they were like, why do you not go to the doctors? And I was like, it's only a dislocated pinky. It always does it. Like just and it's like. Then I'm like, maybe I should go get it fixed. Like, I don't know what it would do. Like, just something you need to deal with. Like,
yeah, people are like, that's no normal. It's the same with like my shoulder. Like my shoulders, because I had a disease anyway that was like rotting away, and then one of my first lessons in GPWA, and we were doing like up and overs and then over the top rope and stuff like that, and it was Lionheart, and he was the one guiding us over. And I was just a bit too high up that when I was coming down, I was fully missing the canvas. But this was the time GPWA didn't even have mats round the ring. So it was just that concrete floor. So you just see me go up, over, and then straight down, land face first on the thing. And you just heard the full crunch. So like, I think I can't even get it much higher than that now without it like popping out. And everyone's like, you know, people always in wrestling, oh, my shoulder hurts. No, my shoulder hurts. And it's like, but then you talk to somebody outside and it's like, why does it click when you put your bag on? And I'm like, that's just normal. And it's like, go to the hospital. And it's like, well, why? They can't really put it back together. This is what it is now. Like, you just live with it.
See, I've just people in wrestling talk about shoulders, but I heard this one in wrestling, but then like if I rotate it, it clicks. It sounds like a lock, like it's spelled like. And then I went to the doctors for it because people keep saying go on, and the guy was like, it's too far. He's like, we can, like, if it's fine and no causing you too much discomfort, just leave it. If we need to look into it further, we can. And I was like, just leave it. I can't. I don't want it. I've not got enough time for you to have to look at it more, go to a physio, and then physios don't really do much. They kind of do like stretches, and it's like. But anyway, that's just the weird world of it. Anybody who wants to get into wrestling, just be prepared. You'll have
a sore shoulder.
Your shoulders will be your knees.
Knees are gone for.
You'll understand this as well when no mats on the outside the ring, because obviously people don't afford mats. And I had this weird period in my time when I was like, I'm going to wrestle with no shoes on because I was doing a lot of MMA, and I liked that style. And I've broke all my toes multiple times, and like my toes are all bent and everything, and are horrible. So if you ever see me with sandals on, just don't look. And I went early tap rope, like you were saying, but I landed feet flat right on, and it was like one of those horrible concrete gym flares. Yeah. And you just heard the slap, and I was like trying to because I was meant to come out and like cheer to the crowd, and I was just poor. Just hit me somebody, please.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that people enjoy about wrestling. You get into it, you get all this terrible stories, but they're fun. The most of fun. There's obviously
that's the thing when people do say, oh, it's fake, and it's like, yeah, right, okay, you predetermine the match, right? But you've trained for however long to take a back bump safe. It's still, you don't register that it hurts, but it does hurt still. It's just you've trained yourself enough to be immune to it. And then whereas like, I remember the first time I took a top, no, it wasn't even in the ring. It was a top rope leg drop to the outside, and it was on a crash mat, but it was a crash mat straight onto the floor. And I went, right, oh, people do this on TV. This is so easy. Did it. And I didn't stand up for like half an hour afterwards because I was like, what the fuck, this hurts. And then
it's the DD of the arse. Like now when somebody punches you and DDs you and it does it to your arse and you're just like, I can't walk. How do people do this on TV and get up? Like
it's worse now when I train in Manchester, and all the time, like if we're running through spots and we do a face spot, like that is like a leg drop's my go-to, because the first time I hit it in training, it was taking the piss out Hulk Hogan, because I was doing the like, oh, and now I've hit it ever since then. And I just remember I hit it, and it was the first time I'd hit it since like COVID, and then I had to get straight on the train from Manchester back up to Motherwell, and I was like, why did I hit that move? This really hurts. I'm sitting here for 4.5 hours. Like, I am dumb.
But it's the worst thing is, like, we're talking about this and people say like it's like when you see, oh, you like that fake wrestling and stuff like that. Wrestling is obviously it's predetermined. We know how to take the moves safely, how to do the moves safely.
Yeah.
But you're still hitting a mat. And by the way, independent mats aren't they like the WWE cushy reform things? It's just like a boxing ring and you smack that. I hate
it as well. See the pure memory foam ones, I think they're worse. Like, fair enough, they're comfy, right? But see if you're, I think it happened twice to me that I've been in one of those. One time my ankle ended up going like that because my foot was in the canvas. And then another time, I think like the boards were separated underneath as well, so you couldn't actually move. Whereas like, see if it's just like, it's your kids' play mats that you get that have the 1, 2, 3, 4 on it. Think about diving head first onto that and see how comfortable it is. Like,
it's no fun. But I think it was a few years before I left, so it was like I was probably like 15, 16, and we used to always wrestle for this guy, and he just used a boxing ring, so it was like that real kind of style he wanted, like MMA style. No, it was cool. I used to love doing it, but then when you went to like a memory foam one or something that had a wee mattress on, you're like, fuck, just lying down there for a while.
Like, this is amazing.
I'll get up in like 10 minutes, like wrestling on a trampoline, because when you're there and if you're not just falling back or you get shoved back and you go to hit the bump and you land on it and it's just like
I did that as well in one of mine, that you can see it, and I think it was like one of my only face matches, and you can see it. I'm just like, right, I need a second. I'm just gonna lie. Like I was selling, but I just lay back down because I was like, I can't deal with this. The ropes were too tight, and it was just like, I'm gonna stay down here for a minute. Just you do your thing. I'm gonna get back up, I swear. But no, I get that entirely.
It's just I just love when there's people that I talk to that are in the YouTube community and they're like, oh, I'm getting into wrestling, I'm training, and they're just on the mats and they're doing like the lockups and stuff, and I'm like, you've got a long way to go. Just go to a place that's got loose ropes, which are so hard to wrestle on, and then hard ropes which you hit, and it's like, who just whipped my back with something that was fucking outside?
No, do you know what's worse, right? And I don't even know if anybody's ever told you this, right? That is, either way, running the ropes is worse for women, only for the fact, see, when you run the ropes, regardless of what height you are or whatever, the middle of your bra separates when you hit the ropes. So the metal ones that like have ripped, and I'm like, it's a fucking point in this. Like, how I need to get special ones for show day and then special ones for training, because I'm like, I'm not wasting this one. That's for show day because it sits nice, whereas this one shit, so I'll wear it to training. And I'm like, that's just to run the ropes. That's not even take that move. Like, that's the basics.
But it's what we love. What we love doing. What I used to love doing before I decided to know. Well, I didn't, because my neck. I didn't decide to do it. But it's what we love doing. So heading to the end of the podcast, a couple of questions, like I says, about just random stuff. Like we're just pretty much bullshitted for the past hour or so. But there's more professional podcasts out there if anybody's interested in going on them.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to talk shite, come on here. But where do you see yourself in 10 years gone? Do you see yourself being up there, or like you were saying, do you just want to keep doing those wee family shows and enjoying them?
In all honesty, I don't even think I'd be still doing it. I don't even think I'd still be doing it now if it wasn't for Lana Austin, right? And I was talking to my mum about this earlier, but it was like, like Lana Austin's still always on the list of like, it's Lana Austin, I want to wrestle you, right? Big name, and obviously, but then like I get to not only train in her classes, but like we do like almost like full matches, and I'm like, I'm wrestling Lana Austin in this match, and it's incredible. And then she's just hit a move that she's then going to hit at her show on Saturday, and it's like, it inspired me in the way of like people that have that attitude of like, you know, oh, I've wrestled for 5 years, so I'm going to stop learning now. Whereas like Lana trains us, but it's like she also takes things away as well. She's in the ring with us, she's doing the warm ups and everything, and not a lot of people will be like that. But I can't be arsed. I can't be arsed with the drama. And also, I know I'm rubbish, right? I do know I'm rubbish, and my body has deteriorated. So, like, the fact I can't even do a burpee anymore, like I used to be able to. I try and do it now, my hip clicks, my knee clicks, and then I'm like, I can't do this. But I will still try. Mainly, the goal is I'm only in it to piss people off. Like, if I keep training and I keep doing what I do, and if I only wrestle one show a year, I'm fine with that, because there's so many people out there that would be like, she doesn't deserve to be on that show, she's shite, whatever, this and that. And it's like, well, I'm on it, like, regardless of what you say. Like, oh, there was what, somebody, the show didn't happen, but somebody complained to a company about me being disableist towards people with autism and Asperger's. And I was like, I am the poster child for it. Like, how the fuck? And then I found the tweet. That they were complaining about. And I was making fun of myself. I was like, are you serious? You're taking offence of me insulting myself. Like, but yeah, like, there's certain ones out there that, like, they do tweet to this day, like, oh, I'm so happy that Rayhne didn't get her match or whatever. And I'm like, cool. Like, circumstances happened, and if I keep training right now and I don't get a match, that's also cool, because you know what? I'm maybe not at the stand. I could do certain things, but I want to be better. I want to not just have that female match that it's just like, it was all right. I want to do good things and get people interested. So whether at that time I do get to be on a few more shows and like it does piss people off, I'd be happy to do that. But by then I'd be 35. I'm not seeing my body last that long at all. Like, maybe for the family shows, but like hopefully, I'd say before then, but it probably will be when I'm 35 at this rate. Hopefully by then I would love to have just like one match on Eve. I don't care if it's a singles or a tag or a 6-man or a spot in the Rumble. If I could just say, like, I've had a match in the world's biggest, well, UK's biggest female only company, like, that I'd be happy with completely. And the match with Lana Austin, because if I train with her, I kind of want to have the match, whether I'm good enough or not. But we'll see.
I think a lot of people sleep on Lana Austin, so I've got her on Facebook and heard on her for ages as well, but I'm always shit scared to ask her to be on my podcast. But
she's so lovely. And then obviously with her recent injury and stuff, like, which until I started training with her, we didn't think much of it, because it's like, it's Lana Austin. She's amazing regardless. Whereas like she's building herself up and like getting more comfortable now, and it's like, yeah, but you're still fucking amazing. And it's not to put down on how anyone else feels, but I'm just like, you're still a star. Like, we're friendly now because I'm training with you, but I'm like, see, if I wasn't here, you would have no idea who I am. Like, that's the reality of it.
She's probably one of my favourite women wrestlers in the UK scene at the minute as well, and has been for years. She's just fantastic in the ring, and everything she does is fun. Like the thing that went viral when the ref was like to touch her bum and stuff like that. I thought it was hilarious, and it was so good because a character plays into that as well. On the burpee side of stuff, just to rub it in, but I do these challenges every month, fitness challenges.
Yeah.
And one of them was 15,000 burpees in 48 hours, and then last weekend was 20,000 reps of different exercises, like 2,000 each. But it was 2,000 burpees was one of them, and it's burpees are horrible. Like, see when somebody says that, like it flashes back to that point, and I'm like, don't take it back to that. And then next month, I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 30,000 of these. I don't know
I'm
why.
going to do it. And then you're like, no.
Aye, it hurts my soul. I don't know what I did to myself, but no, Lana Lawson's definitely somebody that people need to go check out who are listening to this. If somebody's still listening to us bitch this whole time by now, they should definitely go check it. But I think you're good in the ring. If just no blowing smoke up your arse or anything, I think your stuff's good. Stuff that I saw on YouTube and stuff like that, I think it looks good. Obviously, there's space for everybody to learn. Like, there's no point in being like you're the best wrestler ever. But yeah, it's good. I think it's cool. I like the hard style stuff. Like, I think it's a lot better than the flippy stuff. Mostly because I can't do it, and also it makes no fucking sense to do a handstand like we were saying earlier. But I think I could see you and Eve could see you up there on the kind of bigger UK saying stuff. Plus, the UK wrestling scene is great for women wrestling. People forget like there's better women wrestlers in the UK than I'd say is in WWE at the minute. When that's saying much, because
see, it's harder as well. Like, because, like, for example, like when you're seeing like the English scene, so right now, like Liverpool, it's always like Lizzie Evo and Alexis Falcon, who are amazing. But then people in that area will just see that. But see, like a few towns away, you've got like, and like Natalie Sykes and stuff like that as well. And then another town, you've got Mariah May. I'm sorry if I've butchered that. And it's like every single place has got like one of those people. If you're not branching out, obviously you don't know. But then I was just gutted. See when like Viper, I'd probably tweet up about wrestling at one point, because it is like I take my inspiration from like Nikki and her, because obviously I was always told you're the big girl, but then you also have to act like the way Nikki does, of the whole aggression and attitude. And I was like, right, I'll try and run with that. And I was always like, I don't deserve it by any means, but if I could have a match with Viper, that'd be cool. And then she left, which congratulations to her, she deserves it. But she fucked off, and I'm like, there's no really like bigger people in that, and I'm like, this sucks. Like, especially when it's like when you're getting insecure. So like sometimes you look at girls and you're like, I wish I could wear the 2-piece, and and I'm like, I'm fat, I'm covered in stretch marks, I'm spotty as hell, right? Nobody wants to see that. Whereas like, especially if you're a heel, right, you can't even play it that, oh, I'm cute and like I've just no, I can't play that at all. And then you're like, oh, you have to wrestle this really lovely looking blonde girl that's got perfect makeup, and I'm like, I don't want to. I want to go cry backstage. Like, that's what I want to do.
Just go find a wee corner and just
aye.
Why is it like this? But it would be even better if you're a heel and you just play the gimmick, like, I'm this beautiful looking person. I used to do it as well. Like, I used to go out and be like, oh, I look so pretty, then all this kind of stuff, and like the people would be like, you're one ugly guy, and I'm like, I know I'm not, but I feel like I'm pretty, and then it would just piss people off, and I fucking hate you, and I'm like, that's the whole point, thank you.
That's the only reason, like, not the only reason, but I'm like going hard on like training my thighs right now to get the definition, only because like if you think of people like Roxy that use their legs, obviously, and it's not even like, I'm not body shaming or anything, but like her legs are nice and like more on the slimmer side and stuff like that, and she's smaller and like all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you put her against me, who's like a size fucking 20, right? Whereas I'm like, no, you can't. Like, I've got like look at this, but then even at a children's show, they'll start calling you fat, and it's like, right, that one hurts, but it works. That gets the heat there, and it's just like that's what I'm going for at the moment.
I'm not the bad guy, but I've got feelings. I know, right? Calm down.
That's how I work. It's something basically like, how dare you? Or they'll just say my purple hair's shite, and it's just like, especially if you're in Glasgow, you could just like, I shut up, you're a Rangers supporter, like something like that, and then they get so much hate over it, and it's like, well, you insulted me first, so tough luck.
I think it's. I love when I was wrestling. I used to look, because I'm a big independent supporter and always have been since I was like a child. And like I don't know why all my family are like unionists and that kind of stuff. But I'm like this insane independent. Probably just because I was like, I don't like this stuff. But
yeah,
when we used to go like to caravan parks and stuff like that, I would be the person that would come out and be like, oh, F the Queen and all this kind of stuff. And caravan parks, no, it'd be like typecasting people who go to caravan parks, but quite a lot of them are unionists and Rangers fans and stuff like that, and I used to love just the heat you would get, and people would be like, I'm going to slash you, and I'm like, support inside, no outside, like, yeah, well, a wee bit scared, but inside I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm getting people to hate me. Somebody actually threw a brick at me one time, and then also when talking about Hugo, we were at this show, and they started calling me racist names, like, and I was like, I'm white. What the? And he was standing next to me, and he was like, because we were on the outside, and it was a women's match. We were on the outside, as like the kind of standing there, and then I was getting called all like the racist names that people that are silly call coloured people, and I was like, well, I'm white, and then he was literally standing like, I don't know what to do, and so I just stood there like, this is new. Like, I don't know what I'm
like if he joined in, it's like, it's still kind of like racist. That's the problem. So kind of cheer for that. Like
I get that you're trying to call me a name, but it's no working. Like, that's no me. Like, I don't know what you want me to do here. And then like there was such a weird crowd, and I was like, what the hell's happening? And it was just the best experience ever, because we were like, how do we work this? Like, I don't know how to work this, and I don't think anybody ever got the answer to it, but that was another. I have a lot of those like weird stories. Like, every wrestler has those kind of, you do a wrestling match and it's in front of like terrible crowd, or like there's like you get a brick through at you, or somebody's like. So
oh no, I think my best one ever. I wasn't even wrestling on this, but RIP SSW, right, the best company in Scotland. They like had this. Oh, they had a full like wrestling match. Like, it's all younger boys and girls and stuff like that, right? It was mostly like the family of the promoter and all that kind of stuff. And they had this match, and then like the boy must have been like 16 or something. And then his girlfriend came in and pinned the guy, and then she won the belt. And then this lassie's mum, who the girl actually trained and was a wrestler with them, this lassie's mum went after the nut about it. She's like, how fucking dare you? My daughter deserves that fucking belt and all that. And I'm like sitting at the merch stand, like, we're in the middle of Bathgate in front of 6 people. Like, I don't know what to do here.
See, parents are some of the worst as well. Like, when like their son or their daughter like gets bet, and then like they want to make a complaint, and you're like, I don't know what to say. I literally don't know what you want me to say here. This is the fun parts of wrestling that people forget that happen as well. Like, I'll tell you this one after we finish the podcast.
Okay.
Last time I tried to tell it got took down. But so, who's your favourite wrestler of all time? What's somebody you would be like, this is a person that I like to watch?
I think like hand in hand, and it's kind of a weird one because they're both not as big, right? But and it's simple because they're both WWE, right? Edge, obviously, for the fact like he was the person I watched, that whole attitude and stuff. Obviously, there's ones alongside that where like Jeff Hardy and CM Punk and all that, but Edge was the one I primarily watched for and took influence from. But at the same time, then, even though he wasn't as long, but whatever you want to go by, Mr. Kennedy or Mr. Anderson as well. Like, the fact, obviously there was behind the scenes circumstances that kind of went to that career, but I was just like, it just comes out, and it's same with Chris Jericho almost, but I don't rate Chris Jericho now, so I can't put him on the list. I can put him on his list, but I'd say like Edge, it's like Edge, Mr. Anderson, and Kevin Owens, which you can kind of see the theme around that, but they'd be like the ones at any time, like even 30 years from now, if they came out and tried to wrestle, even if it was only a lock-up, I'd be like, fucking yes! Like, I don't need anything else from the show, I just need these guys.
Mine was always Bret Hart. I've got a t-shirt on the now. Bret Hart,
my mum
Sting, Raven and Sabu. They were my... I know that's like a wide range, but they all kind of have similar sort of styles. No Sabu, he's his own stuff. I don't think anybody's kind of like him. But that was all my guys to watch. Bret Hart is still one of my favourite guys. And see, like Sting and Taker, they would just go into it. They don't even need to have a match. Just stand in the ring. And I'd be, what's that? You need £150? I'll pay it. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Just to have them stand there. But that was always mine. So the last question we always ask is, if you could put yourself in any match in history, what would it be? So for me, I would put myself in Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. I'd put myself as Owen Hart, only if I was as good as him in the blue steel cage at SummerSlam '94, because that's my favourite match of all time, and nobody can change my mind. That's the best steel cage match ever.
I'm gonna, but do you know what? I'm gonna actually double check this because I'm gonna butcher this, because I've forgotten which show it is first. And it's back because there's two matches. I know there's two matches. But it's a weird one because I'd include somebody else. I would include my best friend of all time and like great wrestling guy of Stone Malone. If we were good enough to be in that match, I would put us in the WrestleMania. Is it? I can't even see it. It just says WrestleMania, and I can't remember which number. But the Edge, Christian versus Dudley's versus Hardy's match.
TLC of 17, was it? No, 17.
I know there's two. There was like two matches, but I know there's one at WrestleMania, and then there was another one.
And one was at SummerSlam, I think, and then the other one was WrestleMania. So yes, talk about wrestling. There's too much wrestling in my head.
But like that. The Mania one is like one of my favourite. Like if somebody asked me what's your favourite match, it is like back to then. And I always wanted to do tag team matches, but obviously being a woman and like the first advice I actually got from a wrestler who's thank fuck is not around anymore, was you're already doing a discredit to yourself being female, so why would you want to do mixed tag as well? And I was just like, but then see when I started. My debut was a mixed tag. My next match was a mixed tag. My third match was with Holly Dead in a mixed tag. So I was just like, after all that, like, what the fuck were you talking about? But
that's
like,
some of the worst advice I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Mixed tags is fantastic. It's a good way to.
It's hard. See, if you don't do them often, they're hard to plan because, like, in my experience, see when I've done mixed tag, like usually I just get forgotten about. So like I'll go in, I'll take somebody's move, we'll do the heat, but the heat will be short, so there's like no moves in the heat, so I've not hit anything. And then there'll be a big, the comeback, which I'll take that, and then there'll be like the I would say like hopes and stuff, but it would just be like something messes up, I'll get hit, and then I'm fucking out. So I don't actually do anything in those matches. But a lot of people would be like, no, that's not good enough, and you hit someone. It's like, well, but if I can just, peel them over by the hair and then like somebody's screaming at me to stop, like that's more than enough. Like I can throw slams in if I want, if we've got time, but it's just like, it's not, that's what it comes to. It's not all about the moves. Like, yeah, it'd be great if you could hit everything in the fucking world, but that's never going to happen. But if you can get over doing absolutely nothing, what's better than that?
I think that like people that moan like Kevin Nash and stuff like that for his 5 moves of doom. Mm-hmm. That guy's getting paid a shit ton just to do 5 moves. I would be more than happy to get paid what he was getting to do 20 moves. But
like, see when people complained about John Cena, right? This was the high time for me when people were complaining about John Cena, right? And when we were helping at shows, Grado was on a lot of the shows. Now, obviously, Grado's roughly the same, where it's kind of the same structure and it's the same moves, right? Which, no hate, like, it's him, and obviously it's his character that gets over most of the time. He spends like 10 minutes doing that, and then he'll do the last 10 minutes hitting the moves. But I'm just like, but why are you hating on John Cena? But I've just watched for the past 4 weeks Grado have the same match with 4 different people, but you have come to each show cheering on Grado. Like, I don't, like, where's the consistency in that? I don't get it.
It's always been the same, isn't it? Like, wrestling's always just been that pure weird, like, these are our guys, we don't like John Cena. But I remember being through, I've always liked John Cena, but there was a period when it was like, this guy is the only person in the company, we need to get some other people. Yeah. And that's how we stopped liking them. That was back in 2006 and stuff. That was before it was cool to hate him. That's when it was legit, like, there is nobody else to take this belt. We need to get this guy out of the picture.
See when you had, like, One Night Stand, right? with the whole him and RVD, and he was actually getting, but like that shit was fun, and like it was just genuine. And then obviously that is one of my biggest hate, like kayfabe, like the fact, I don't mind if people know my real name or anything like that, but I was explaining it earlier of the whole, when Edge came back the first time in the Rumble, everybody, like, I couldn't watch it. So I remember being on WWE.com the next night, and it was like, Edge has won the Royal Rumble. And I was like, fucking yes! I'm like 14 years old, pure jumping, because like that. And then obviously came back this time, and it was kind of like, we all knew. It was all over Twitter. Like, even AJ Styles, people were kind of like, do we know when Hardy's came back at Mania? Like that. And it was just like, I get that it's a new age and everything's digital and that, but it's kind of like it has taken away that love and surprise of everything. And it's just like, if we still had that, people would probably be a bit more interested, because everybody's got an opinion, which you're right to, but everybody can create a podcast shitting on something now. Like, so
pretty much. I don't think anybody, like, the worst thing with wrestling for me just now is, I don't like WWE. Obviously, they make a ton of money. They're better business people than me, which is fine. But the product quality is fucking shit. My kids don't even watch it, and it's like, we're booking it for kids who they think wrestling is stupid. But I put on like a Nitro, which isn't the best show. Put on a Nitro and they're sitting poor. Oh, that's pretty good. I like Sting, I know, and I'm like, it's fucking just the same thing always sells. Wrestling's always that wee bit edgy.
Yeah.
Like, it pushes. It's on the outside of society. It pushes stuff, makes people like get annoyed about it. That's the whole point of wrestling, because it's like storylines. It will be how many times I've done an alcoholic storyline, which is, and then the whole Snitsky kick a baby with Lita and Kay and stuff, which is awkward.
Dumb, but it's like, that's our memories though. That's what we look back on fondly. Like, when you know, like, remember Vicky Guerrero, like, imagine her getting on top of Big Show or something. Like, it's just like, that's our childhood growing up.
Or like Mae Young giving birth to a hand and all that kind of stuff. That was when I was getting into it, and it was like, what's this? This is brilliant. I need to watch more of this. But wrestling's lost for me personally, wrestling's lost that kind of like surprise factor. But also, I can go back and watch Ric Flair versus Terry Funk, or Austin in his prime, or Taker in their prime. What do I need to watch? Like, any offence to these people, like Liv Morgan against Carmella on a Friday. I'll do it for my review stuff, but when I'm writing my review, I'm like, I'm going to go watch like some sort of cool, like, I don't know, like something better than what we've just.
But even it's like, even actually, he like of just recently, and it's not even that recently, but the whole women's Money in the Bank, right? And then James Ellsworth won, right? And how much fuss that kicked up, right? To the point, for some reason, they redid it and there was no point in it, right? Because there was that much hate on it. Whereas when Santina won Miss WrestleMania, people were hating and laughing, but it was like, that was the joke of it. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, you're shitting on the women's division because you're doing that. It was like, it's just a piss take. That's all it is. That's what you need to take it as. It doesn't mean the full thing is always going to be, but you know, and it's just kind of like, you actually can't win these days, because nobody will ever be truly happy because everybody else can voice their opinions now. But then at the end of the day, if you like WWE, you watch WWE. If you want to go to a family show, go to a family show. But doesn't mean whoever likes the opposite, doesn't mean they're less of a fan because they do that. It's their own choice, you know. You can't hate on people for their own thing.
Get it on both sides. Like, if you people will be like, so I'm pretty harsh with my wrestling reviews because I like to see wrestling get better, and people think AEW is like the best wrestling company in the world. It's clearly no. They've got like the women's wrestling division. They're fucking terrible. They've got like a couple of, they've got good wrestlers, but they don't know how to book it. And then Omega, don't even get me started. But anyway, then like WWE's, I'm just as harsh with them. Like, when they've had one good Raw for the whole time I've been doing this YouTube thing, and people are like, oh, that's them back in form. I'm like, it's one good Raw, calm down. Like, they're not going to change the world. It's a terrible show to watch. If this was like, I don't know, like a movie, you'd be like, fuck, I'm going to get a refund for this.
I can't be bothered with this.
But like, you get people that'll be like, you can't hate one thing and like the other, and it's like, I can say what I want. It's my, like, especially doing this on YouTube, like a review. Literally, I'm reviewing it. It's my opinion, and people still moaning. I'm like, I'm just saying what I thought. Like, I literally say, this is my opinion. What do you think? Leave it in the comments below, and people will still be like, you're wrong. How can I be wrong about saying that fucking, I don't know, Roman Reigns talking every week is pretty shit because he's the most over guy in WWE, but he just talks every week. He's got nothing else to do. There's nobody that can go against him. And then
I couldn't even tell you the last time I watched this. Well, like I watched Mania because Mania, but like the last, I couldn't tell you. Like Seth Rollins was still probably like in his like fucking big themed gear and all that, and like Finn Balor was still there, not injured the first time. Like that's how long ago since I've watched it.
We are. I think everybody's just at that point when I can go back onto the network and watch like really good wrestling.
Even like do you know what? DX wasn't that great and all. Like, see when it was just the two of them, right? It wasn't that great, but see when you're in a match and a man's head gets rammed up another man's arse, you're picking yourself laughing at it, like, what am I watching? Like, but it's good and it was entertaining and nobody's doing the exact same thing the next week.
It causes its edginess into it as well. Like, I would love to see stuff like talk about like this is going to get poor people annoyed for saying this, but right now they've got that Sonya Deville and Naomi storyline, right? The obvious thing today is go by, are you trying to stop me getting to this position because of the colour of my skin? And talk about that address the problem that's happening in society. But WWE are too scared to do that because of the shareholders. Obviously, I would like to see that because it ruffles some feathers. But I wouldn't trust WWE to do it. Like, they would probably do it and fucking somehow make it like terrible.
It would be worse than Hollyoaks dealing with it, and like they're probably the lowest one in British television to deal with it. But it's like that brings in the whole, it's not even just opinions in wrestling, that brings in actual genuine opinions. Because how many times you've gone to shows, like even myself, I wouldn't like, I'd clap, I wouldn't shout at shows, I wouldn't be like, you know, making my voice heard. Whereas like I'll put myself on the firing line here, right? See if you put Chris Renfrew in a ring right now, I'd shout back at him. I'd be like, get that fucking alcoholic back off this stage, like get him away from this place. And you'd actually get an argument out of me. And it's the same with like realistic, people shy away from it too much. Even in wrestling right now, because people are too comfy, because we're all back and we can just ignore it because you can be on a show. Whereas it's just like, nah, that's where you're already complaining wrestling's rubbish, but you're going to continue doing this. Whereas, like, you know, if we have storylines, people can get invested in it and people will want to come back. And whereas it's like, no, we're just going to put the same tag match on like all the time. I don't understand that.
Wrestling's about being provocative, isn't it? Like, it's about trying to a lot of dislikes and people view both parts. So it'll be good. I'll get my views up. But wrestling has to be provocative. Like, that's the whole point of wrestling. It has to be a play on society. Like theatre stuff as well is always a play on society, and wrestling forgets to do that as well. And then you look at stuff like AEW, which is just they try and do it. They totally it's like awkward. Like Cody Rhodes recently. I don't know if you've seen his stuff, and he somehow became like the voice of like the Black Lives Matter thing, and it was like how, and it was against like an English black guy, and I was like, how did you somehow manage to make yourself like even more hated? Like, I don't know how that guy is even got a job. Like, he's so easy to dislike, and I know how he's got a job. Obviously, I wrote like, but it's just so easy to dislike. Like, it's like
but so it's in the way. It's good that he's like came far. Like, if you think of Cody Rhodes wearing like a mask to protect his face compared to now, but it is also like in the way of like, when you've got your own money and you're doing it yourself, there's nothing really to stop you doing stupid things. Whereas like when it comes down to it, like especially like in the provocative way, I think the only, and I'm not saying in this the way that there's nobody else that does it, right? I'm just thinking of my own experience and who I watch. The only person that can really fill that role at the moment is Charles Crowley, because he has the background in theatre. He's a great actor, but then like he did his own like that recording of wrestling when it's just like they're in these different places and that was unique, and he went out and did that, and he's still new to wrestling. He's putting the fucking rest of us to shame. Whereas he's a superstar that can go out there and entertain people with a balloon on a wrestling show sort of thing, and it's just like it doesn't, it doesn't need to be the same simple, shine, heat. It's like you could come out and be a character and you can invoke people's feelings. That's the whole point. And then, they might hate you, but at least they get their money's worth out of the show.
It's like watching a sad movie or any kind of movie, and it doesn't get you any emotion. Like, it's like, what's the point in doing it or playing games or whatever? If you're not getting...
Oh, I like even to interrupt. I think the best one was, and I'm not going to name the names right because there's no hate on them for doing it, but for something as simple as, I think it was it Airdrie? I'm not even sure it was there. One of the shows, and one of the heels came out and stuck up the two fingers to a child in the crowd, right? And it wasn't even mean. It was just like that. The guy went to the paper to complain and everything. Like, my child is like 7 or 8 years old and all that, and I'm like, mate, you're sitting in a football top. Like, your child's probably heard you shout worse to the TV sort of way. But I'm like, all right, okay, I understand it. But it's like, how is the wrestler meant to know that? Like, we just see people, like, we just see faces. You're not, and yes, you have to be correct and stuff like that. But it's like, to us, that's harmless. It might not be to other people. Same with swearing. It's harmless to some folk, but it's offensive to others. It's just like the heat that then got. It was worrying, but it was just like over a fight, like over two fingers. That's like the talk of Scottish wrestling for the next couple of weeks. Is this guy is hated because he stuck the fingers up to a child? Like, that's how simple it is to get hate.
I think I've got another story in that, but I've tried to tell that one as well. I'll tell you that another time as well. But it's just such a weird thing in wrestling that, like, people care about it. I think that's what's cool. People actually care about wrestling, and they get so invested in it. And the whole point is to cause the emotions. Like, see, going to papers, it will get more eyes on that promotion.
Yeah.
No, obviously bad press isn't the best press or anything like that, but being able to, like, what's happening in society should be happening in wrestling, like, talking about both sides of everything. Like, they missed the trick with, like, when women are, like, moaning that when they're getting paid the same, or like they were getting held down and stuff like that. And it was like, in wrestling, there was barely any women main events or anything. It was like, don't give them a pay-per-view, have them moan about it and have them actually make a story.
I hated that so much because it was in the way of, like, right, we'll start you off with like these 3 groups, and then we'll do this other stuff, and then, like, here's one pay-per-view, here's another, and it's just like, but there's no point to it. You're just doing it to be like women friendly. It's like, no, make a story for it. Make us, because when you put on that, was it like the first women's like revolution thing, and it was just like, right, we know these people in Britain, right? So it's cool to see them on it, but this is pish, and I'm bored, and the Rumble isn't that great because, like, Lita almost killed herself and, like, everything else, and it was just like, no, like, there's all these great names, yeah, but if you've given them the time, or, like, even if you had, if you worked up a match and then you had, like, somebody like Trish come back, like, no, I didn't get that, so why the hell do you deserve that? That makes, because their biggest match was a 10-minute match on Raw at the time. It would just make sense. Whether or not the wrestling would have been there, but the storyline would have, old fans would have been like, fuck, Trish Stratus is on TV, let's go watch her. Nah, they just missed the mark on that one.
I would have done it like a walkout. Like, they would have been like, we're no wrestling today, we're going to walk out, or like, we're no doing this anymore. Like, they're doing like wee picket lines, or like just staying in the house, whatever, and just taking it, just playing on it. It's what wrestling is, isn't it? It's like when they done that referee one, when they walked out and the referees one, they doing it and stuff, which is, could do the exact same thing, and then go, what do you want? The terms of the contract is we get like a pay-per-view, we want like this.
Yeah. Like, that's, as much as that's cringy, that's what worked. See, when you had your contract signing and somebody would flip the table, like, it was so interesting.
It's meant to be cringy as well, especially the have is insane. And it's like, you
Mhm.
could have, like, if like Charlotte Flair and Becky was like, well, we're not doing it, and going to like news channels and stuff like that, but like, we're not working
Aye.
here anymore because of this, and just cause this poor buzz, and it would have probably sold a ton for that one pay-per-view, but they
Mhm.
didn't do that, and it was all about being Disney friendly kind of way,
I know.
which is so
But
annoying.
because it's even with that, you could build with that. Like, see if you still had like Vicky Guerrero and Mix, you'd have top stars being like, "I'm gonna do it," and then you could have like a slimy Vicky going to somebody and be like, "They're not here. You do the job because you've got the opportunity now," sort of thing, and then it like builds even more storylines, and that's what I hate because it's just not there. Like the thought's not there anymore, and whether it's just because they can't be bothered, or it is in the way of we just want cool matches now. It's kind of that's not for everybody, and that's what we need to realise. Like wrestling's always going to be there. Like WWE's always going to be there, regardless of how many times we complain about it. But to make it better, to make it bigger and better, like we need to kind of notice, right, what's no bringing people in. Okay, we can't get Grado anymore because he's away over in America doing something, right? So we'll catch doing this whole thing of like people that nobody's ever heard of, but they're doing like a whole bracket breakdown of like 8 wrestlers and they're all doing a different thing, and then you've got managers that are then bringing in a story and stuff like that, and it's just like that makes sense. Whereas WWE, you're seeing the same match like 3 times, and it's like, oh, it's on a pay-per-view. Come stay up till like 1 o'clock in the morning. You can see it again. It's just like, no thanks.
Aye, it's true. I like my stuff to be like, probably because when I grew up, like that 90s 2000 period, it was always like provocative and storylines that were like trying to push the envelope, and it got people mega pissed off, like people on the street shouting and like wanting stuff to be cancelled and stuff like that. It just, and wrestling at that time as well was playing off that provocativeness.
Yeah.
Like it just I don't know. For me, I always enjoyed it. Like when we watch it now, you're like, you could do so much with it. Like you could literally be like, there's so much happening, especially Twitter. You can find a niche for everybody to moan about.
Yeah.
You could literally have characters in every niche just to moan about everything, and people would moan about it, and it would get eyes, or people would be happy about it, and it would get more eyes. And that's the thing with like AEW as well. I feel like they do the same. They're kind of worried to upset some fans. Like they want to be like, let's keep our great wrestling matches for the wrestling fans, and then we'll try and do a couple of stories for normal people, but it won't really be like normal stories that they can buy into. And I just want people to push the envelope more, like just to be like, fuck, like you're not good enough because you're a woman. Oh, what do you mean I'm not good enough because I'm a woman? Like I can do just as much as you. And it literally the simplest storyline. You're a woman, you can't do this. I can do this better than you, even though you're a guy. Well, let's do a wee challenge for this, and let's see who's going to win.
Do you know what's the worst part, right? People wouldn't do that. A lot of people have started to do that, right? But people wouldn't do that. But they'd literally think that they would act like that backstage, and it's like, well, make money from it then at least. Like, come on. Like, I think it was Spirit. Is it Spirit Pro Wrestling? Like, literally their first show that they've just had was. I'm not even sure. It was Alexis Falcon against another guy, and I'm so sorry for not remembering the name right now because I'm just so bad with names. I'm new to English scene, right? So I'm no. But their whole promo up to it was like, oh, I'm on this all the time. I've got belts. Like I'm gonna be the face of this company. And then he was like, no, like I've been overlooked, and you're this. I'm gonna be the face. And then it was just like, it wasn't even a woman versus guy match. It was like they're just arguing their points. That's it. And then it was like, and then I think I saw one of the moves giving like the DDT to her and that, and I'm like, see if you did, like, it's difficult because like if you did that in any other show, people complain that there are people in the crowd that'll go, I was, and not taking away their feelings, but people will go like, I was domestically abused, so that triggered me seeing him like DDT her. And it's just kind of like, okay, but at the same time, like, would you go to a movie theatre and complain? Would you watch EastEnders? A lot of them do, to be fair. A lot of them, like, something goes wrong in EastEnders and they phone up like Ofcom and be like, I don't like that. But it is in the way. It's like it stops that one opinion, then stops so many great things that could happen. I'm not taking away from people's feelings, but it is like, it's the same with genres. If you don't like it, don't watch it. you can't spoil it for everybody else at the end of the day.
I think it's the same thing. Like, it's the one that bugs me is mixed tag matches, and when like the guy comes in and attack the woman out. Like, but back in the Attitude Era or Ruthless Aggression, the guy would come in and still go against the woman.
Yeah, that's when I said like that was the biggest thing. It was always the heel guy can kind of touch the girl, but like not actually hit her, and then like the face can't do anything at all. And it's like, but if I'm being a bitch, right, and a guy comes in and drop kicks me, they're gonna cheer for it. Like, if I'm being that much of a bad guy, if he drops kicks me and I take the bump and I roll out, they're gonna be like, yes, you get her. And it's just like, but it's that one that'll be like, oh no, that's upsetting to me. And it's like, no, because if you do it well, it's done. If you're doing it crap, it's not gonna work and people aren't invested.
But if you look at people like China and stuff like that, it's just probably the time period that I grew up in, and people are going to be like, you're just an old man and stuff like that. But I just like my stuff to be like provocative, especially like wrestling as well. It's literally the storytelling of what's happening in the world just turned up to 100. That's what makes Stone Cold Steve Austin good, or Undertaker's like the gothic guy that you'd find at the Four Corners and stuff like that. And it's like, it's the story's there. We can tell all this story, and then they're just too scared to tell it. No, I think everybody, not just wrestling, everywhere is too scared to try and push the envelope, like even on TV and stuff like that as well. But I guess we'll learn how to deal with it eventually when Facebook take over the world or something. Terminator comes out, see what happens. No, but thanks for being on the show. It's been cool chatting to you. We'll end part 2 here because I just had to get it back on to finish what we were talking about, even though it was. But you'll have 2 parts, which is always fun. Exactly. Hopefully. So where do you want people to go check you out first? Would it be your YouTube to find a few matches, or do you want them to come and watch you on stream?
I mean, it depends what you're into. Like, if you want to watch some really bad wrestling matches, right? They're not that bad, right? I promise there's worth out there on YouTube. Every social media, apart from Twitch, is basically at Rayhne UK. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all under that. If you want to come watch some really bad games, or sometimes we do just chat and streams, we often do talk about really bad food combinations. So we started talking about how people that like pepperoni pizza are basic. Never mind Hawaiian pizzas, right? We're for Hawaiian pizzas, and even if you're not, you're wrong, but still. But we had a big discussion about pepperoni pizzas, and then about cheese and onion crisps and chocolate together. Like, this is what I spend my night talking about, and that is just at Purple Rayhne. Same with TikTok as well. I've got 2 TikToks, so if you even want to find me on there, I post really embarrassing stuff because I'm 25 years old and I'm not with the trends, and I can't dance, and I'm fat, so people wouldn't want to see that anyway. I just post gameplay and all that kind of stuff people can laugh at the end of the day.
I'll definitely go check out your social media. I would say you're being a bit hard on yourself about your matches. They are good. I enjoyed watching them when I was watching them for this podcast. I think they're pretty cool.
It's obviously only annoying. I like them, but see, because I have to cut the entrance because of copyright claims, that annoys me because the entrance makes half of my match, and it's like, no, you didn't see me arguing with this like 12-year-old child threatening to batter him, and like, it's not even like I was holding back. I was like, I'm actually going to batter you, mate. Like, see, if your dad wasn't there telling you to sit down, I would batter you right now.
12-year-old child goes over. It's like, oh, Jesus, I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for being on. Definitely go check you. Next time you've got a match or anything, tag me in it and I'll get it shared and stuff like that as well. And I'll end the show there and I'll give you the after care information.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.